Imagine a tower so massive that it seemed to challenge the very heavens, a construction so ambitious that it forever changed the course of human history. Today, we are about to uncover the mysteries behind the magnificent, yet tragic, Tower of Babel. Why did ancient people decide to build such a colossal tower? How did God respond to this bold attempt? And what deep lessons can we still learn from this story today? Stay with us until the end, because this journey reveals the extraordinary power of biblical narratives. And before we continue, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss the next videos. The story of the Tower of Babel is found in the book of Genesis in the Old Testament of the Bible, specifically in chapter 11, verses 1 through 9. This event takes place after the Great Flood, when humanity once again began to multiply and spread across the earth. Although the Bible mentions the city of Babel, its exact location remains uncertain. Many scholars believe it may have been located in the region of Mesopotamia, possibly in ancient Babylon or somewhere nearby. At that time, all the people of the earth spoke the same language and shared a common purpose. United by this single language, they decided to build a city and, at its center, a tower that would reach the heavens. This structure became known as the Tower of Babel and was seen as a symbol of human power and achievement. The motivation behind this project was clear. They wanted to demonstrate their strength and authority, and also avoid being scattered across the earth. Considering that this story takes place shortly after the flood of Noah, some scholars suggest that the people may have still feared another catastrophic flood. In their minds, building an extremely tall tower could have been a way to protect themselves if such a disaster happened again. This idea may also be connected to the reality of Mesopotamia, where the Tigris and Euphrates rivers often caused major floods. However, this fear also revealed a lack of trust in God, because after the flood the Lord had promised that He would never again destroy the earth with water. In Genesis chapter 9, verse 11, God declares, "Never again will all life be destroyed by the waters of a flood. Never again will there be a flood to destroy the earth." Another theory suggests that the tower may also have served as a defensive structure. In ancient Mesopotamia, city-states frequently faced threats of invasion from neighboring peoples. A tall tower could function as a watchtower to detect approaching enemies or even as part of the city's defense. In that sense, the tower may have had both a practical and symbolic role, representing protection and strength. However, the real problem was the attitude of the human heart. The builders believed that through their own skills and efforts they could reach the heavens. This represented human pride and rebellion against the authority of God. It is important to remember that in Genesis chapter 9, God commanded Noah and his descendants, "Be fruitful and multiply, and fill the earth." In other words, God's will was for humanity to spread throughout the world. But by building the tower and remaining together in one place, they were disobeying this divine command. According to some ancient traditions and Jewish interpretations, the construction was led by a man named Nimrod. The Bible describes him as a mighty ruler and a powerful figure on the earth, a descendant of Noah. Many accounts portray Nimrod as a charismatic leader with great influence over the people. Some interpretations suggest that he encouraged the construction of the tower as a way to challenge God and turn people away from true worship. It is also important to remember that Babel later became the capital of the powerful Babylonian Empire. In that region, it was common to build temple towers known as ziggurats. Ziggurats were stepped pyramid-like structures made of several levels, often with a sanctuary at the top. They served religious purposes and were common among the Babylonians, Sumerians, and Assyrians. Some scholars believe the Tower of Babel may have been one of these massive ziggurats. The construction materials were likely sun-dried mud bricks, widely used in Mesopotamia. These bricks were made from clay mixed with straw, and once dried they formed durable structures. The tower would probably have begun with a large, solid base. As it rose higher, additional layers of bricks and earth would be added, creating the stepped platforms typical of a ziggurat. Although the Bible does not specify the exact height of the Tower of Babel, many artistic representations throughout history portray it as an enormous structure that nearly reached the heavens. But then something unexpected happened. God saw what humanity was doing and decided to intervene. He recognized that united by one language and one purpose, people were moving in a direction of pride and disobedience. So, in a divine act, God confused the language of all those working on the tower. Suddenly, people began speaking different languages. What had once been clear and simple communication turned into complete confusion. No one could understand one another anymore. Imagine the chaos that must have followed. Workers who had previously cooperated side by side could no longer communicate. Instructions were misunderstood, decisions could not be made together, and the great project came to a halt. Unable to continue building, the people began to separate into groups according to the languages they spoke. These groups then spread out across different regions of the earth. According to the biblical account, this is how different peoples, cultures, and nations came into existence. The name Babel is associated with a Hebrew word connected to confusion, referring directly to the confusion of languages that occurred in this story. This dispersion of humanity ultimately fulfilled God's original command, that the earth should be populated. Over time, each group developed its own culture, identity, and language. Some scholars even connect this narrative to the emergence of ancient Semitic languages such as Hebrew and Aramaic. Regardless of the historical or cultural interpretations, the story of the Tower of Babel carries powerful lessons. It reminds us of the dangers of human pride, the consequences of ignoring God's will, and the importance of humility before the Creator. More than just an ancient story, this biblical narrative continues to deliver a powerful message. Our lives depend on God, and true wisdom comes from recognizing His sovereignty. If you made it this far, it probably means you enjoyed the content. So make sure to subscribe to the channel and leave a comment telling us which biblical story you would like to see in the next video. A big hug, and may God bless your life.